Okay, good evening. It's 5 o'clock. I'm going to open the Lower Makefield Township Sewer Authority meeting on April 15th, 2021. If I can get a roll call of attendees. Fred, you're looking first.
Okay. Fred Ebert, Sewer Authority Engineer.
Greg Hucklebridge, Public Works Director.
All right.
David
David Truelove, Solicitor.
Joe Lingle, board member.
Go ahead, Scott, announce yourself.
Scott Phillips, authority member.
Phil Tyler, Sewer Authority member. Okay, we need to approve the minutes from February 25th, 2021. Is there a motion to approve those minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from February 25th.
And second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
And Scott, I'll coordinate with you to get them signed since you're now the secretary.
Yeah, I did a good job on them, didn't I?
Yeah, it's beautiful. Very well done.
Nice job, Scott.
Nice typings. Okay, Fred, 10 and a half minutes and I'm timing you.
I bet he can do it.
I'm taking my deep breath now and I won't stop. Kirk, can you put up the PowerPoint presentation for me, please? So
Hey, Fred.
Yep. Everybody got everything?
Hearing a lot of background from somebody. Maybe we should mute and just have Fred on it.
Yeah, I'm sure Fred White's got it.
Yeah, I got it, but mute me if you can. I'm on my iPhone. I'm sorry for the background noise.
You guys, super. All right. What I'm going to go over tonight is an update on the 2020 projects, a status update on the 2021 projects that have already been authorized, and 2 additional projects that I'll be seeking authorization to bid tonight. So Kurt, if we can go to the next one. Just an update on the 20 cured in place pipeliner. Construction was completed on January 25th. The construction punch list final was done on March 23rd, and the contractor is scheduled to restore the items on the punch list on April 16th, which will then bring that contract to a close, and we can release all the retainage and enter the maintenance period. Next slide, Scott. Okay. The contract 20-2, this is the manhole rehabilitation. The construction was completed on December 11th of 2020. Substantial completion was on February 17th. We are holding approximately $3,200 of retainage until the final inspection. The final inspection has been performed. There are no issues that were discovered. So we're working on a payment request, recommending release of all the project retainage to the Board of Supervisors. Next slide. Contract 20 SDR 20-3. This is the Brookstone pump station upgrade. This was the removal of the dry well and installation of pumps and converting it to a submersible wet well pump station. Contractor mobilized on February 15th. They were substantially complete on April 13th. The contractor is now paving the entire site. We did have one minor issue on that, that when we did the first startup, the contractor had nicked one of the pump cables. So we actually had to have that taken out and a second startup done. But what very smoothly, all things considered. And then we'll do our final punch list after all the paving is complete. Next slide. Contract SDR 20-4D. This is a Stackhouse pump station. The contractor is going to start construction in mid-May, although they are going to be installing E&S measures and tree removal potentially a little bit before that. We're going to have a pre-construction meeting the week of April 19th. After that, we actually have to meet with both residents at their site. But I wanted to have a confirmation of when he's actually going to be working out there. They are still waiting for the controls and some minor and some pumps to have the delivery confirmed. And basically the reason for this is we want to have continuous allow for restoration due to the slope and erosion concerns. The contractor basically has it, I think it's all there, and there he's just waiting till mid-May for him to finish up another job and send both a mechanical and a excavation crew out at one time. Next contract, next one. This is a contract, SWR 21-1. This is what you had authorized to bid at the last authority meeting. This is just an update that the bids are due on May 12th, that the authority will perform their recommendation, will review the bids with you. And if they're so inclined, the authority would recommend to the Board of Supervisors to award them if appropriate. And then the Board of Supervisors recommendation to award or actual award of the contract would occur at their May 19th meeting. Next slide. This is the second contract that was previously done. This is for the Children Place pipeliner. This is in both the Neshaminy as well as the Morrisville. Our cost estimate was $369, but that does not include the 10% contingency. Our budget was $401,000. And once again, bids will be due on May 12th. The sewer authority then meets on Thursday, May 13th. And we'll be looking for the Board of Supervisors to recommend to award on May 19th. So they're all things that we've done. Before I go on to the two new contracts, and I know I blew through those quickly because of our time constraints, did the board have any questions on the status or any items on that?
Anyone? I don't have any questions.
Yeah. Let's
me.
go to
No
the,
questions.
good. Let's go to the two new contracts. And these are both in the budget. The first one is contract SWR 21-3. This is the Buck Creek liner. This was and we had to move it slightly higher up because we had some access issues on the lower end of it where we were originally planning on going that either us or Aqua will have to deal with. But there was a lot of flow and clear flow up in this area. This entire stretch pretty much follows the creek the entire way. And the creek has changed course since the time of the installation of sanitary sewer, and it's much closer in some places and probably further away in some other places as well. But our overall, and this is a requirement of our corrective action plan. Once again, the same thing with all the benefits of the Children Place pipeliner. This project was specifically included in the Lower Makefield Township 2021 budget. The budget amount is $283,250. We'll be replacing slightly over a mile of 8-inch sanitary sewer main. We're able to do a lot more main here because there are no laterals that tie in. Every lateral connection costs between $3,500 to $4,500. So not having laterals allows us to get a lot more main done, which is really the goal of this. Our cost estimate is $247,250, 10% contingency. Our engineer's estimates at $271,973, slightly less than the $283,250 that's in the contract, that's in the budget, but that does allow for any change orders that may occur. We would be seeking authorization by the Board of Supervisors at their meeting next Wednesday, if recommended by this board. And the overall schedule would have bids due on May 26th. This authority at its second meeting in May would make the recommendation to the Board of Supervisors on May 27th. And then the BOS could award the contract at their June 2nd meeting. And then the next contract.
Before you leave that one, Fred, just got one quick question.
Absolutely.
So the 5,700 feet, is that just a logical break point and how you selected that, or would you just back in the number to be able to come in within the overall 2021 budget?
Well, what we did was we actually took one run all the way to the terminuses that follow the creek, and then we went down another one. And we actually have part of the Morrisville Sewer Authority lining project is a continuation of that. So we basically piggyback these two projects together to knock out one entire interceptor. But the answer to your question is yes, I basically broke it out of manhole location.
Okay.
If I would have went to the next manhole, I would have been over my budget.
Over budget. Okay.
And I got to stop at manholes.
Got it. Thanks.
This one is a Silverlight pump station upgrade. And basically this is going to be the first of, and probably it'll be Aqua Pennsylvania's continuation. This pump station is at the end of its mechanical life. Basically none of the valves work. We can't isolate any of the valves or get a tight close down on any of them. And they also have a filter in the effluent, which is unusual. It was a Gannett Fleming thing that was designed for a period of 3 to 5 years and has never been done. So you never put a filter on the effluent side of a pump, on a discharge side of a pump. But to its credit, it's lasted 40 some years, you know, getting close to 50 years. So really, and the other thing is the impellers are worn down. So really what we're doing is we're installing a bypass pump connection because right now there's no way to replace any of these valves. So we're installing a bypass pump connection so we can go in and the reason for that is the suction line coming out of the wet well into the dry well, that valve will not close. So we can't isolate it to do and replace impellers or do any work really on the pumps because we can't get a tight shutdown. We can get a shutdown close enough that you can work on it, but it's spraying wastewater the entire time. So what this is really to replace all the valves, provide a bypass, and then replace the impellers in all three pumps. The biggest issue that I believe why we are hydraulically overloaded on this pump station is the impellers are just worn and we aren't anywhere near the actual design pumping rate. So this will allow us right now to replace the impellers. The next step will probably be to replace these. It's a dry pit, but it's got a long shaft that goes up to a motor on the first floor. Will be for Aqua to replace the pumps with dry pit submersibles, but that's going to be $1 million project. That's because you're going to need a whole new electric service, a whole new generator, and going probably from 30 horsepower pumps probably to around 105 horsepower pumps to meet today's standards. We looked at replacing the pumps and slightly upgrading them, but DEP would now require me to use the current peak factor of 3.8 rather than the original design factor that was done when these were installed. So once I try to increase the capacity, it's like anything else, you have to meet the current code. So we couldn't do that. And we also didn't have that in our budget. You know, our budget's $360,500. And our engineer's estimate's 351. But quite honestly, we're having to manually backflush or manually flush the pump filters daily. And there's almost no maintenance that can be done on this because none of the valves work. And unfortunately, the valves are just very expensive. They just are. It's all 10-inch and it's kind of an unusual size. I mean, just a 10x8 Y fitting is $8,500. Just one fitting is $8,500. So we're looking for a recommendation to take this to the Board of Supervisors to bid. Any questions at all?
Any questions?
So Fred, you mentioned that you're not able to, you know, we don't have it within the budget to get to current code given the peak factors and all. Is there a significant downside to just doing it like for like you're doing now? What would happen in the future if we don't, you know, go to current standard?
Well, what you have to do this project first before you can replace the pumps. So, but we have planned everything so that it's a 10-inch force main, which I can't change. We have all the pump discharges are now set up for 8-inch. So we're setting everything up for the future. So it's a very easy swap out that they can literally, if you didn't have the electrical issue, you could literally buy 3 pumps and plop them in place one at a time and never have to do anything with it. The other advantage of this, because I need to bypass pump it and set that up, I mean, just the bypass connection alone is $75,000 out of this budget. But if something ever happens and we get a lightning strike and it blows up all the controls, we could now bring in a portable pump and use that bypass connection in the future.
So it is being set up for,
Yes.
future state be able to expand and not have to go, start from scratch.
Oh, absolutely. I basically started with a full design to replace all the pumps and then backed into what we could afford.
Okay.
So yeah, and unfortunately the 3 pumps, controls and generator were what got cut,
Sure.
but
Obviously, having a bypass connection makes life a lot more comfortable when you have an older pump station. Right now,
No
it's
doubt.
a little dicey, right?
All right.
And the change in scope happened all since our February 25th meeting?
well, basically, yeah, the scope wasn't really defined at that point. When we had that, we were looking at replacing the pumps. But because the pumps work, but once we talked to DEP and they said that we had to increase it to meet today's standards, we could no longer do that.
Okay,
So that was based upon a discussion with DEP to confirm that I don't need a permit for this work. Or what would trigger the permit. Because what I don't want to do is do something inadvertently, not get a permit, and then through the sale, we get flagged and are liable for it.
So Fred, you're looking for a motion to recommend both the Buck Creek Liner project and the Silver Lake Pump Station project.
Let's make a motion on the Silver Lake Pump Station first, and then we'll go to the Buck Creek. Let's do one at a time. If that's okay with you, Mr. Love.
Sure.
Do I get a motion for the Silver Lake Pump Station upgrade?
I'll make a motion to move forward with the Silver Lake Pump Station upgrade as Mr. Ebert described it, to be brought forward to the board for consideration.
Second,
and second.
all in favor? Aye.
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 Thanks, Frederick. Good on that. Now, we just heard about the Buck Creek.
Kirk, can you go back so they can properly read it?
That was just Buck Creek. Okay, we're at the Buck Creek area. So I need another motion if we want to let them pursue this venture. Didn't we, grow up, no one really remembers, but I remember quite a few years. We did a big thing at Buck Creek on that interceptor.
You absolutely did. You did the very bottom section of it.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
This will allow the majority of it to be done. There is still one section that will not be done. That access is extremely difficult, and the township and/or Aqua, Pennsylvania, is going to have to do extensive clearing in the right of way to get back in there, which may involve some potential wetland issues.
Okay, well, I need a motion for the Buck Creek interceptor.
One question, Phil, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Was this the project where there was some discussion about prior work having been done in spots?
Yes.
And have there been any additional review or videoing to find where those locations are?
Not yet. We know the general area that they're in. That's the area that we cannot access yet to get a video truck in there to video. So we have to do extensive clearing to be able to get into that area to identify what was previously lined and the status of that line. So we tried to get in, and you also need to have not only access in, but you need to bring in Godwin or portable diesel pumps to bypass the flows, because the flows in here are so heavy that you can't even televise it without bypass pumping it. So we're basically jumped up to where we do have good access and work from there. It actually splits like a Y and working both legs back. The goal is by doing this, when they do go down there and can clear it and access it, there should be significantly less flows going through the pipe once we get all of these liners done. And there may be a follow-up project.
Right. I was just going to ask that, Fred. So this should improve the amount of I&I coming through. It's going to decrease it. So it makes that a little bit easier when we start getting downstream into that next section.
Right, we just want to get this done basically so when August comes, we don't have to worry about this anymore.
Well, yeah, the answer, I guess, is yes,
Okay.
but I still have to assume that we're going to own it forever. And even if we don't, we want to turn it over in much better condition than it was previously.
As you said, a lot of that
and
flow
do the
was
work we
clear flow.
planned.
Pardon?
Yeah,
Yes.
it's clear in there. And it's I think they asked me like something like 700 gallons per minute at the one location. It's pretty heavy, and it wasn't like peak time for sewer. So
There's not that many. I mean, you should have a third of that based on the number of connected units up there.
I remember when I first got on the sewer authority, we had a big problem with the Buck Creek interceptor where basically, I think we took out a bond for $600,000 on this. So I don't really remember all the work that was done to it, but I know it was major work that we had to do. So, so if I just need a motion to, do 5,700 feet.
I'll make a motion to recommend contract SWR 21-3 to proceed to the board for consideration.
And second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, Fred, you got that. That's it. Thank you. You had a nice time. Next. No. What else? We got one more thing. Update on lining and manhole rehabilitation.
I already went over that.
Okay,
That was
so
the first part of mine.
we're done.
Well, how about the reports? Or the chapter 94?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. All the chapter 94 reports and the corrective action plan. So we have to submit chapter 94 reports to Falls Township, Morrisville, Yardley, and Bucks County Water and Sewer Authority. The flows were down about 20 to 30% from where they were last year, as expected. Most of that was quite honestly due to it being an average year rather than 2018 was an extremely wet year. 2019 was a wet year. 2020 was an average year. We went from having 14 pump stations that were overloaded down to only 3 that were overloaded as a result of that. And we also did significant upgrades to some of the pump stations, and added, additional pumps and impellers. But most of it was honestly the reduction in flows. The Bucks County Water and Sewer Authority reviewed our corrective action plan and the efforts, and as a result, they released over 500 EDUs as part of our connection management plan. Now, 427 of those went to the Prickett Preserve project. But they went very extensively over the work that we had done, showing them not only the upgrades to the pump stations, but also the upgrades to the lining that we had done and the manholes going in there. And so we far exceeded our requirements under the cap, which allowed them to go through there. Quite honestly, I haven't seen. What we do is we give a tributary questionnaire and we do our Chapter 94 report. That's then compiled with the overall Chapter 94 reports. Like Bucks County will have all of the tributary municipalities. Morrisville will include ours with Yardley's and for their overall Chapter 94 report. So I have not seen the completed report that way, but it was pretty significant, even what we did in Morrisville. And the amount of work that we did compared to any past years. Previously we did almost nothing in Morrisville. So having this program, and hopefully Aqua Pennsylvania, if the sale goes through, continues this program. Because I think it's going to be very, very successful. The other thing that I do think has had a significant impact on the reduction in flows is the lateral ordinance. It is amazing the number of property transfers that are happening right now in this township. I think we were thinking, somewhere around 8 to 15%. We're clearly up in the 15% bracket on property transfers. And we're finding, depends on the neighborhood. Some of the newer neighborhoods, absolutely nothing. The older neighborhoods, we're finding a lot. And most of it is at the 4 to 6 connection. We're finding leaks. The other thing is just tree roots, mature tree roots that have gone down in there and gone through. But once again, the vast majority of these are relatively inexpensive fixes. They're broken cleanouts in there that are below grade. So that's a $250 fix. We've had a few that were in the thousands. $2,000, $3,000. They actually had to dig things up and replace it. And some of them were deep, but I haven't had a, $8,000 or $10,000 repair. There's nothing like that.
Neighbor for 30 grand.
What?
Yeah. Mikhail hit her for 30 grand to dig
The-
that pipe from her house all the way to the street.
I didn't hear about that one yet.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, she couldn't believe it. I sold my house, my pipes were in good shape, and her camera, oh God. But remember, we're on Falls Township. I was on Falls Township.
Oh, so you had to go all the way out to the middle of the road.
No, they didn't go out to the middle of the road. They just took it to the curb line.
No
Hmm.
problem.
Wow.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, yeah, it gets very expensive.
if any of the board members would like to have electronic copy of the corrective action plan, I'm more than happy to provide that for you guys. That probably gives the best update. The questionnaire, and I'll also give you copies of Chapter 94 reports. The questionnaires, but I'll have Greg distribute those out to you guys.
Okay, great.
Yeah, no problem.
It's great information to have.
And Fred, you mentioned that you said if Aqua continues with the corrective action plan, at least for the Neshaminy, is that even an option or is that a requirement for them?
In my opinion, it's a requirement for them. They don't have a choice. That was part of the agreement that there is with Bucks County Water and Sewer Authority. And if they did not stay in compliance with that, they would not get any additional EDUs.
Okay.
So I just can't speak for them. So I have full assumption that they're going to continue with the program.
All right, Fred, you done?
Happy to answer any of the questions the board has.
Yeah, I have no questions. Joe?
No questions.
Yeah, Scott?
Oh, good, thank you.
All right, so Mr. Truelove.
Very briefly, speaking as the B team member tonight, since the A team is otherwise engaged, my partner Barbara Kirk has done a lot of and continues to do a lot of documentation, both on easements internally and any filings in court that are necessary, and preparing agreements as they come up. So she's certainly on top of all that. In terms of two of the items that Fred mentioned tonight that you recommended to the board to consider at its next meeting, and looking at the draft agenda for next Wednesday's meeting, surprisingly, both those items appeared as potential items for consideration by the board next week. So that's a good thing. I guess they had the faith that you guys would be following through on that because they're prepared to start that. So anyway, that's my report.
Okay. Any other business from the members or anybody at the moment?
I just wanted to make sure that we talked about the next meeting. We'd
Next
like to
two
try to
meetings.
have it. Yeah, the next two meetings in May. So the next one we would like to have on May 13th, 6 p.m. is available. So that would be Thursday, is the second Thursday of the month. And then the following meeting, May 27th, would be 2 weeks later on the fourth Thursday at our usual time of 7:30, fourth Thursday of the month. So I just want to make sure you guys are aware. Hopefully we can make that work, and hope to see you there.
13th. Any problems with the 13th? What time was that? 6 o'clock?
6 o'clock, yeah.
And Joe?
Both look good for me, Greg.
Excellent.
It shouldn't be a problem for me.
All right, Greg. So get us on the list before someone else takes it.
I have us tentatively because I know how it is around here. Thank you for checking on that. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay. So I just need someone to call for an adjournment, and it was a nice meeting. And done at 5:29.
All right.
Not bad, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Take care, everybody. Stay well.
All in favor?